When you're filling a raised bed, the choices you make in those first layers determine how well your garden performs for years to come. Every gardener has their go-to method, but two materials rise to the top of the debate: compost and leaf mold. Both are rich, both are natural, and both claim to be the gold standard for soil health. But which one really gives raised beds the edge? I decided to test them side by side, and honestly, the results were surprising. In this guide, I'll break down what compost and leaf mold each bring to the table, how they perform differently in raised beds, and which one ultimately delivered the best growth. By the end, you'll know exactly how to put them to work in your garden for the strongest possible harvests. Let's start with compost. Compost is the workhorse of organic gardening, made from decomposed kitchen scraps, yard waste, and other organic matter. What makes compost special is its nutrient content. It contains nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and micronutrients in a form that plants can use fairly quickly. When I filled one of my raised beds with a top layer of compost mixed into the soil, the difference was immediate. The plants established quickly, their leaves turned a healthy deep green, and growth was steady throughout the season. One example from this test was a bed of peppers. The compost-fed peppers were strong from the start, with thick stems and steady fruit production. They had all the nutrients they needed right at their roots, and it showed. That's the big advantage of compost. It doesn't just build soil, it feeds the plant directly, while also enriching the microbial life underground. Now let's look at leaf mold. Leaf mold is simply decayed leaves, broken down slowly by fungi rather than the faster bacteria-driven process that creates compost. It's not particularly high in nutrients, but what it lacks in direct feeding power, it makes up for in structure. Leaf mold turns into a rich, crumbly material that holds moisture like a sponge while keeping soil light and aerated. In my test bed with leaf mold, I planted lettuce and leafy greens. The difference was clear. The soil stayed damp even on hot days, and I hardly had to water compared to the compost bed. The greens grew lush and tender, not because of a nutrient boost, but because the soil environment was so ideal. Roots had no trouble spreading, and the plants never showed signs of stress. So, which one was better overall? Well, honestly, the answer depends on what you're after. Compost delivered stronger nutrient support, making it excellent for fruiting crops like tomatoes, peppers, and squash that really demand a lot of food. Leaf mold, on the other hand, transformed the soil texture, which worked wonders for moisture-loving crops like lettuce, spinach, and even carrots that benefit from loose, aerated soil. The most interesting discovery was how well they work together. In one raised bed, I added a layer of compost mixed with leaf mold, and it gave me the best of both worlds. The soil held moisture beautifully, the roots spread easily, and the plants had access to a steady supply of nutrients. That bed outperformed either compost or leaf mold on its own. If you have access to compost, you're feeding your plants directly and giving them what they need to produce. If you have access to leaf mold, you're building long-term soil health and resilience. But if you want raised beds that truly thrive, use both. Layer compost for nutrition and add leaf mold for structure and moisture retention. Over time, the soil will only get richer and easier to work with, saving you effort and delivering bigger harvests. The debate between compost and leaf mold isn't about which one is superior, it's about understanding their strengths. Compost is the fuel, leaf mold is the foundation. Together, they create a raised bed environment that's productive, resilient, and nearly self-sustaining. My tests proved it in real time, and now it's a practice I'll never skip. If this guide helped you, make sure to subscribe to Botanical Bliss and share it with your gardening friends. The more we share proven methods like these, the more abundant our gardens will be.